So we're going to start out and we're going to talk about the three different boards that are critical within Lean. The Kanban schedule board we mentioned a moment ago, and that is the board where we do the scheduling. This is typically done by a scheduler if it's manually scheduled Kanbans. The Kanban board for process jobs is where the production workers can see what they have to make, the order they need to make it, how many. They can get to drawings and different things. We'll show you that in a minute. And then the Kanban board for transfer jobs is basically telling a material handler or a water spider what parts might need to be moved somewhere. So we'll start with the Kanban schedule board first. So this is basically our schedule, our daily schedule telling us what to do. You'll notice that the schedule has a capacity of 300 pieces in this case, and this is saying that 275 of that capacity for the day has been consumed. So basically that would allow us, potentially if we were manually scheduling, to drag more pieces to be scheduled. So in our case, what we'll do is we'll go to the Unplanned tab, and I went ahead and planned these, but basically what we're doing is we're able to just grab these and drag them to the day that we want to schedule them. If they were auto-planned, they would have automatically and already shown up here. So basically the scheduler is able to see on a cell-by-cell basis, and that's very important. In this case, this cell is called sub-assembly cell. So for that particular cell, the scheduler can see what his daily schedule is, and he can adjust his schedule and move things around if he needs to from this schedule board. So that would be step one. Once scheduled, the production worker would then be able to see it on the Kanban board for process jobs. So in this case, I'm in the work cell assembly, so I need to change to the sub-assembly work cell. And you would typically see this board stay up in a production area, and it would stay there all day. So they wouldn't be having to change the cells. And they could change the filtering capacity, filtering capability of the screen so that the workers are only seeing specifically what they want them to see. But a worker in a particular cell would filter this for their particular cell, and then you'll be able to see that here is one of the Kanbans that we just created, one of the fixed Kanbans. And basically what they can do now at this point is they can complete this, they can start it, they can complete it. If it had production instructions attached to it, they'd be able to see those here. We'll look at those in a minute. They can see a picking list of any components that are needed for this particular item. In this case, that little check mark means that the item is on hand and available, so they know that they could go ahead and build this component. So in this case, the operator basically would say, well, this is the part I'm going to build. I've got the inventory, so I'm going to go ahead and build it. They could actually start it, which would basically just say that production is started on that particular item. And then they'll work on it, they'll finish it up, and then when they're done, they can say they complete it, and it'll actually put it in the inventory. So we just basically completed that one. So I'm going to pop back to my slide deck here. So that was the fixed Kanban process. Basically, we created the fixed Kanbans. The Kanbans were scheduled, and like I said, in the case, that could either happen automatically or manually based on how you set the Kanban rule up. It's then produced on the Kanban board for process jobs. So then it's basically sitting in inventory, ready to use, and then at the time when we consume that Kanban, we would scan that empty. So that's basically the fixed Kanban process. I'll show you one more thing here that might help you understand that a little bit better. We're going to go out to what's called the Kanban rules form, and we're going to go look for the fixed Kanban part that we just talked about. And this is basically the rule that's set up that tells the system how many Kanbans we need, and we do that down here under the quantities. So we say our default bin size for this particular Kanban is 50, And right now we have this Kanban set at a quantity of 4. And this is real important. I want you to remember this, because when we come back in a little bit, we're going to do a Kanban calculation. And basically what that calculation is going to do is it's going to say, hey, how many of these fixed Kanbans should you really have? It's assuming that your default quantity is basically your bin size. That's a set size based on the bin or based on a convenient handling size. So it's not going to tell you to change the default quantity, but it's going to tell you to suggest that you either raise or lower the number of bins of that particular item that you have. And then down at the bottom, this gives me some visibility about what Kanbans I have open. And actually, if I empty a Kanban, and I can actually do that by scanning as well, that'll basically tell me that I need to make more. So that's basically the fixed process, fixed Kanban process. So the next thing we want to talk about is the make-to-order process. And if you remember, our bill of material did contain that lower-level component that was a fixed Kanban component that we just basically made. So now we're going to go enter a sales order for a make-to-order component that needs that component, and we're going to go look at what's called the pegging tree, which will basically allow us to see from the sales order any components that we need to make for this, and basically see what the schedule is and whether or not the parts have been completed yet. If we had a transfer requirement where we needed to transfer materials to the line side, we could actually have a transfer activity that would show up and tell the order spider, hey, there's materials that need to be moved for this particular order. In my example today, I do not have that set up for this particular process, but that's a very common thing to do. The next thing, the production worker would either, if they pick the material, they could change it to prepared, so that means that the materials have been picked. They can start the Kanban to say they started work on it if they want to, and that could pre-flush the materials. And all of those are optional steps. Honestly, if they really wanted to streamline the process, they could just say that it's complete. They wouldn't even have to prepare or start. So depending on the situation, we use different statuses. If they're required, great. If not, we don't need to use them. We just can complete it. So the next step we'll do is we'll produce the Kanban on the Kanban board, which would backflush components if it was set up that way. And then once we've produced it, obviously, we'd be able to ship our sales order. So let's go pop into AX, and we're going to start out basically entering a sales order. So I'm going to create a new sales order, and we'll use this customer. And then I'm going to enter it for my top level item. Now, something to keep in mind here is the sales order automatically pulled in a quantity of 100. That's just what I've set up as a default order size. That's not required. It pulled it in and said that it's going to make these in the warehouse LS assembly, line side assembly. So that was just a setting that I had as well. So we're going to save that sales order line, and basically that's going to give you the ability to go out and look at what we call the pegging tree. Now you'll notice in this pegging tree that the system created 2 Kanbans of, and if you look here, it shows that it created 50 each. So it was smart enough to know that we really like to build these in handling units of 50, or possibly 50 is the daily capacity that we want to build. So that's an optional setting, and we set that on what's called the Kanban rule. We were able to say that the maximum quantity for this particular type of item is 50. So the system knew, well, when I enter the sales order, that I need to create 2 Kanban pulls basically of 50 each. So if I wouldn't have put a maximum quantity there, it would have created 1 Kanban pull of 100. But in this case, I wanted to do 50 each. Another thing that you'll notice down here under the Kanban jobs, it shows that there's a work cell assembly is where we need to work on this, and it tells us our due date and time, and the good quantity is how many pieces have been reported. So from a sales order perspective, you could go to the sales order, and any make to order top level item or any make to order components would also show up here as Kanbans as well. The customer service person could actually see what the status of it is, how many pieces have been reported good, and basically where it's at from the sales order itself. So it's a very useful tool. Okay, so the sales order was entered, and basically what we've done at this point is we are able to signal the final assembly cell. In this case, you're ready to build this part. So let's go over and we set this one to automatically schedule, so we don't have to go through the scheduling process in this case. We're just going to pop straight out to the Kanban board for process jobs. And we're going to go, in this case, we're going to change to our assembly cell, which is where the top level item is manufactured. And we're going to see that we have a make to order part that shows up in our schedule. So here's our two make to order Kanbans, and yes, they are Kanbans in AX 2012, and they are make to order Kanbans, but they're showing up here. And at this point, I have quite a bit of things that I can do. So I'm the production worker. I see this is on my cell. This is something I need to make. I can actually go out and see production instructions. So I actually can see a drawing or a document telling me what to do. And I can zoom that in. Actually, and I can go open that if I wanted to. If I wanted to open that document up separately. So I can see the production instructions. That's a great thing to see. Another thing I can see is my picking list for that particular item. So in this case, I can see that my picking quantity of 50, I have the available inventory. If not, it would have a big red X here. So let's see if we produce both of these. We don't have enough material to do both of them. We're short for the second one. So in this case, we would know that we don't have all the material, and we would need to probably wait until that Kanban was replenished for that other component. So in this case, we'll go ahead and just produce the one. So as I said earlier, kind of an optional step to say it's prepared. A lot of companies will use that prepare status so that they know the materials have been picked. So we'll go ahead and set it to prepared, and then the production floor might only filter the Kanban board to see jobs that are in prepared status. And you'll notice when you come up here that by changing it to prepared, it's changed it to prepared status. So I could filter the board where I only see jobs that are in prepared status that are ready to be made. Now the manufacturing person is going to be there at this point, and they can actually start it, which will say that it's in progress. It went ahead and we've picked the materials. That happened automatically. And then once we've finished producing it, we can say complete, and it actually is going to put that material in the inventory, which is now available to be shipped to the customer. So by simply entering a sales order and having it set to automatic plan, it showed up and told us to make it on the Kanban board for each cell that has to do an activity associated with this. So in our example today, we only had a single activity. There could have been 5 or 6 different activities that it might take to make this, and those cells would have been able to see this particular sales order got loaded and they need to make parts. So it really ties the sales order to the production floor. And in the same interface, we're able to see any items that are controlled by fixed Kanban or traditional Kanbans, and they'll show up on the same interface in this day that they're scheduled. So it really gives you a lot of flexibility here in cells that have make-to-order parts and make Kanban parts. Your production workers are using the same form. They're able to transact everything the exact same way, whether it's a fixed Kanban or a make-to-order type Kanban scenario. So I think this is where we're really seeing some benefits. And then as well, they're able to see the production instructions from here as well.